Hello friends, in our previous video, we learned about while loops in Python. So in this video, we are gonna learn about the other type of loop available in Python, that is for loop. A for loop is used for iterating over a sequence that is either a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. Unlike while loop, in for loop, we don't have to explicitly increment the iterator to move to the next item. Rather, the iterator automatically moves from one element to the next element in the sequence. So this is the syntax of a for loop. For iterating variable in sequence, these are the statements that you want to execute. Like this, players equal to Kohli, Rohit, Bumrah. For X in players, print X. So it will print the name of each and every player, that is Kohli, Rohit, and then Bumrah. So let's flip to Jupyter Notebook and let's see how we can use a for loop. Okay, let's say we have a variable called X and we assign a string called Python in this variable. So what we want to do is we want to print every character of this string in a separate line. So we can do that using a for loop, just like this. For X in for ch in X, print ch. So ch is our iterator variable. So it will iterate over the entire string, that is it will go through each and every character of the string and it will print the same in different lines. If we run the cell, we get Python, each of the characters in a different line. So that's how a for loop works. We can do the same for a list, like this. X equal to, let's say we have four different numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we again do it like this, so let's change the name of the variable a bit. This time it will, let's give it a name num. And if we then run the cell, we get the four different numbers. So what is actually happening? In the first iteration, the value of the variable num is 1. In the second iteration, the value of the variable num is 2. In the third iteration, it is 3. And in the fourth iteration, it is 4. So in while loop, you had three different parts, right? The first was the initialization part, that is you had to initialize the iterator variable to a particular value. So here there is no need to do that. The iterator variable will automatically get initialized, or the iterator variable will assume the first value of the list in the first iteration, the second value of the list in the second iteration, the third value of the list in the third iteration, and so on. So there is no need for separate initialization of the iterator variable, and there is no need for the increment or decrement part also, as we had in the while loop. As the iterator automatically moves from one element to other element in the list or in the string or whatever sequence you use, you don't have to explicitly increment it like this. You don't have to do like this, num equal to num plus 1. There is no need of this line, because the variable num automatically moves from one element to the next element in the list. So you don't need to explicitly move or increment the iterator variable. So we don't need this line in for loop. Okay, just like the way we used break and continue statement in while loop, we can do the same for loop as well. Suppose after a particular iteration, you want to break out of the loop. That is, you want to forcefully terminate the loop before completing all the iterations. So in that case, you can use the break statement here as well. Let's have an example of that. Let's say after printing the number 2, you want to break out of the loop. Then what you will do? If num equal to 2, then break. Now let's run the cell again, and you will see that you get only two outputs, that is 1 and 2, because after in the second iteration, after printing the number 2, you are breaking out of the loop. Fine. Similarly, you can use the continue statement as well. Let's say we want to print the numbers 1, 3 and 4 and skip printing the number 2. Then let's change our code a bit. Let's bring this print statement down. And here, instead of break, will is continue. Fine. So what will happen in the first iteration, as value of the iterator variable num is 1, so this if condition will not get satisfied. So from this line, it will come directly to this line. So it will print the number 1. In the second iteration, the value of the iterator variable num will be 2. So this if condition will be satisfied and it will enter inside the if block and will encounter this continue statement. So what the continue statement does, the continue statement skips the remaining line of the current iteration. So which is the remaining line of the current iteration? Print num. So for num equal to 2, this print statement will be skipped. So the control will again go back to this line. So the value of the variable num will be 3. Now this condition will not be satisfied. Then this print statement will be executed. So 3 will be printed, and in the same way 4 will also be printed. So let's run the cell and let's see whether our assumption is true or not. And we can see the values 1, 3 and 4 are printed and the value 2 is skipped. So to make things even more clearer to you, I will again copy this entire code and will paste it to the Spyder IDE, and with the help of the debugging tools available in the Spyder IDE, I will show you the line by line execution of the entire code, just like I did in my previous video. Okay, so let's copy it and let's create a new file in the Spyder IDE. Let's omit the first few lines. Let's paste your code here. And to start debugging, you have to go to the debug menu, click on debug. So you can see the small arrow, that is the debugger at the first line of the code. So from this line, execution will be started. To start the execution or to move to the next line, you have to press Ctrl plus F10. So if you press Ctrl plus F10, a variable X has been initialized with a list containing 4 elements 1, 2, 3 and 4. So here if you want to check the value of the variable X, if you just write X and press enter, it will give you this value. Now currently we are in this line. Now if you again press Ctrl plus F10 to move to the next line, the arrow will move to the next line, and let's check the current value of the iterator variable num. Let's write num here, and you can see the current value is 1. So again, if you press Ctrl plus F10, it will go from line number 4 to line number 6 because the if condition is not satisfied. So here it will print the current value of the iterator variable. If you press Ctrl plus F10 again, you can see the current value of the iterator variable is printed, and that is 1. So we have completed one iteration. For the next iteration, it again goes to this line. If we again press Ctrl plus F10, and you can again check the value of the variable num by writing num, you can see the value is 2. So if we again press Ctrl plus F10, it enters the if block, and after entering the if block, it gets this statement, that is a continue statement. So what does the continue statement do? It skips the remaining lines of the current iteration. So it should skip this line. So if you again press Ctrl plus F10, you can see this line number 6 is not executed and the control goes back to this line again. So if we again press Ctrl plus F10, the current value of num is 3, so the if condition does not get satisfied. So unlike the previous iteration, the print statement is not skipped this time, because in this iteration the control has not encountered any continue statement. So if we press again Ctrl plus F10, you can see the current value of the iterator variable is printed, that is 3. If you again press F10 and F10, you can see the current value of the iterator variable, that is 4, is printed. So we have exhausted the entire list. We have iterated through all the elements of this list. Now if we again press F10, the control will come out of the loop, that is the loop will be terminated. And if you again press F10, it will again print return, which denotes that the debugging session has ended. Okay, I have cleared the previous output from the console. And one more thing that I would like to discuss is that just like the while loop, we can have an else block at the end of a for loop as well. So we can have it like this, and then whatever you want to execute inside the else block. So just like in case of while loop, this else block will be executed only when all the iterations of the for loop are completed. The else block will not be executed in case the control breaks out of the for loop without completing all the iterations. Fine. So let's test that out. So if we now run the cell, we get 1, 3 and 4, and then after completing all the iterations, when it comes to the else block, it prints all iterations are completed. So instead of using continue, if we use break here, and if we forcefully terminate the loop before completing all the iterations, then let's see if this else block gets executed or not. Let's run it again, and you can clearly see in such cases the else block is not executed. The else block is not executed when the control breaks out of the loop without completing all the iterations. Fine. So we use while loops and for loops for executing specific statements repetitively. But in certain cases, you may not want to keep any content at all inside a for loop or a while loop. But Python does not allow you to keep a for loop or a while loop completely blank. If you really don't want to put any content inside a for or while block, then you have to mention a keyword called pass to avoid getting an error. Fine. So if we do it like this, if we run the cell, we don't get any error at all. But if you just remove this pass statement and keep the for loop completely blank and then run the cell, let's see what happens. You immediately get an error, expected an indented block, right? So you cannot keep a for loop or a while loop completely blank. If you really don't want to put any content at all inside the for loop or while loop, you have to mention a statement or a keyword called pass. Fine. So friends, that's it for this video. I have given you some exercise problems. Please try to solve all of them, and you can let me know the answer of the first 3 problems in the comment section itself. If you have liked my video, please subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I'll upload more Python and data science related videos. And please don't forget to like and share my video so that it reaches a larger audience and they also get benefited from it. Thanks a lot for watching.